All right, welcome everybody. My name's Matthew. I really appreciate your time today to our lunch and learn session. It's about selling technology with stories. And I really love stories, really love getting into conversations with people. I typically work with, people typically buy from me or work with us when they've solved a technology issue, they're delivering really great service, and now it's time to put the foot down and ramp up those sales. So I live in a world of strategy, sales, and marketing, all front-end stuff. I haven't written a line of code for 20 years. So unlike a lot of you here, I am not a technologist. What I am is I've owned and run my own software company since I was 22. So I've been doing this for a little while now. You can see the gray in my beard. So you can probably figure out that 22 was a long time ago. All right, well, let's dive into it. So one of the best technology salespeople to ever live really is Steve Jobs, and the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. Think about if you remember back, if any of you are old as I am, you remember back the first iPhone where he said, we're able to, your digital life in your pocket, and that's almost prophetic. We're now at a place where our digital lives are in our pocket. The phone is never that far away. So, and being an iPhone as well. So I'm not saying that, you need to be earth shaking, but it'd be great to be able to tell a story and being able to drive a better engagement, because it's all about creating a connection with your customer. So let's dive into it. So let me make sure that all of this works. Here we go. Great. Okay. So, by the way, if at any time during the webinar you want to ask a question, over here on this other screen is my question box. I've got it open. That's where I can see you interacting. You can give me a thumbs up. You can give me, remember, I'm a salesperson, so I live off validation of others. So do please ask questions, comment in there. If something hits home or you want me to elaborate on something, please let me know. More than happy to jump in and make this actually really high value. You've spent the time with me today for the next hour. Let's see if I can really pay that back by giving you some real insight. So who's the webinar for? So heads of software and technology companies who need to cut through the noise, the feeds and speeds and tech specs and BI this and enterprise data warehouse that. That is the technical thing you do, but not why you do it. So you need to cut through the noise. You need to generate new leads. And when I say generate leads, not just, look, I've got a real challenge with people saying they're going to generate you a bunch of leads, where really all it is a contact. So Fred Blogg from ABC Corp has a project management role. Well, that's not a lead. That is a name pulled out of a phone book, but out of a directory. So that's not a lead. That is a suspect, not a prospect. So you need to generate leads, and how to turn people from being suspects to prospects is actually engaging them with some type of conversation, your relationship. So I think about sales, and I'd like you to think about this in as well, what I covered in my previous webinar. And if you want, I can send you the recording of that. It's about breaking your sales and marketing, your strategy into 3 key areas. First of all, it's your circle of influence. Who can you talk to? Who knows you? Who trusts you? Who actually knows that you exist? Because for most of my clients, obscurity, actually for everybody who wants to make a sale, obscurity is the enemy. People not know, they can't buy from you if they don't know who you are. So let's start with that. That's your circle of influence. Second of all, it's your relationship with those people. And obviously you're going to build that relationship. How do you do that? Through stories, through conversation, through customer journey, customer stories, case studies, those types of things. And the third thing is your offer. Now, lots and lots of people are out there putting blogs and thought leadership and really working ChatGPT over to generate a bunch of really bland content. But the problem is there's no heart, there's no soul to it. And I'll talk about that also in just a moment. And you've got to close deals. And I'll take you through, if you're interested, I can take you through some of the ways that I help people buy from me and help people buy from my clients, not by force or backing them into a manipulative process where they're cornered and they have to buy, because that doesn't work in B2B. Maybe B2C you can get away with it, but in B2B, and what we do, we sell our products and services to other people who are running their business for a potential future benefit. Well, you really need to think about how they're going to wake up in the morning, buyer's remorse. So we need to make close deal in a smooth and manner. Now, we're going to talk about 3 key areas of impact, why storytelling is important. You probably wouldn't be here if you didn't get that, but I'm going to go into it and really see if I can bed that in. Storytelling in business, why it's important, and of course, how to start and create your own story. So let's get into it. Well, first of all, who am I? Am I qualified to even talk about this? So first of all, thank you very much for everybody that's attended. Lots of people registered on LinkedIn. Also, a bunch of other people registered through my personal email list. So thank you for that. If you're not on my email list, go ahead and download one of our resources from our website. You'll get that resource and also be included on our email list. So who am I? Started my first tech business when I was 22. Always been the sales and marketing person, typically sales. The lead singer of the band. So the lead singer gets all the accolades as a director of my own companies. But at the end of the day, if there's no band, if there's no road crew, if there's nobody to write the songs, then that singer's just talking to nobody. So the whole infrastructure needs to occur around a salesperson to really make it work. And that's been my role for about 25 years. 8 years ago, sold off a part of 9 years ago now, had a year off, moved to Bali, came back, and then after a year, came back, and then for the last 8 years, I've been consulting to software and technology businesses, helping them tighten their sales process, accelerate their sales, and really make their marketing work in the sense that it makes sense to my technical customers, because you need to be able to put a coin in the slot and get a lolly out. You need to have a result for what you're doing. Too much marketing is too fluffy, and the old adage of only 50% of marketing works. We just don't know which 50%. Well, you know what? Let's really think about how we can make this more tactical. Yes, we've got strategy, but the tactical execution of marketing is where I live. So that's a bit of my background. Over the last 8 years, I've probably seen maybe 60 or 70 really successful technology companies I've consulted with. So I've got a lot of industry knowledge that I can share with people if you just ask. So what I'd like to understand is, if you could grab that question box, where are you from and what do you sell? And the question box is probably on your screen, bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So we just grab the question box, type in name and industry, or what you sell. That'd be great if you could do that for me, please. So we're selling dreams, which I love. Fantastic. So maybe it's like so managed technology, great. And so if I understand what you do, then I might be able to relate some of my stories back to what you do and try to give you a little bit of that, I guess, added value of you've invested time with me. So let's see if I can draw on my experience and give that back to you. So SaaS products, data-related SaaS, fantastic. Okay, excellent. Cybersecurity, which is super important. Great. Okay, fantastic. Journey. Okay, really good. Lots of people joining in. Thank you very much for your interaction. The more people that the more information I get, the better I can actually give you on this webinar. HR tech. Oh, that's interesting. That's really quite noisy at the moment. It's popped up a lot. So let's dive into it. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. I'll see if I can weave some. So I've got SaaS. I've got digital IT services, HR, AI. Cool. Really good. Great. Let's start. Let's jump into it. So, really technical things you guys have said, other than the person who sells dreams. So I appreciate that. Unless, of course, you're sort of jacking in like that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. What was it called? It'll come to me. Total Recall. So, put that in there, have a holiday, sell dreams. So look, most of my clients are technically based. So, and this here, what Aaron says is we're engineers, not marketers. It's fascinating to see your team turn our spec sheets into eye-catching website and collateral that actually say what we do. So the feeds and speed is not what you do, it's the problems you solve. Much like the person who's obviously maybe joking about dreams, but that is the truth. Actually selling a future vision. It's up and to the right, it's blue sky. What are we selling in the future? Because the person's current state, so the vision of the future state needs to be greater than the inertia of their current state. And that's really what sales is stretching the gap between their future state and where they want to be, the story that they want to be part of, the Everest, and where they are now. And you need to stretch that. And the best way to stretch that is to have the customer say it out loud. It's really important to have the customer, you're going to say it out loud. I know you can probably do a lot of really clever things, AI, software, food. Whoopsie, I just scrolled the wrong thing. I was meant to scroll my chat window. Lots of different things you do, but actually it's the future result of what you do. This is where we want to be. Okay. So the website has attracted more leads in the first 5 weeks than it did for the last 2 years. It's because it actually is now a business that other people not only can engage with, but actually if you've got a crummy website and then you upgrade it, or you've got a non-existent website and then you upgrade it, you will find more referrals coming through. And it's not because you've magically become better at your job. You're getting more referrals because your existing customers can look at your new website and now feel more comfortable providing you a referral. It's no mystery why often when there's a new website deployed that actually says what you do and is a professional face on the business, your technical capability hasn't improved in any way, shape, or form. Your ability to tell the world what you do has improved. And the only reason people give a referral, I know this is probably going to be a shock for most people, the only reason most people give a referral is to look good. Now, sure, there's some commercial and financial benefits to providing a referral, but in reality, it's to look good. You are going to follow up that person. If you refer somebody to a restaurant, you're going to follow them. How'd you go with that food? If they say it's great, then you have a little ego boost. Oh, go and talk to Paul. They do software for food manufacturers, and the software helps them have less stock on hand, do more just in time, provides them with better stock control. I don't know what you do, Paul, but I'm or better logistics. And if somebody buys that, and you're going to feel good about that. So how do you so I want to ask you a question. If you've got a notepad, how are you making your existing customers feel smart from buying from you? And how are you helping them refer you by also making them look good? It's very rarely unless of course you're creating a multi-level marketing business where it's commercial based, but really it's going to be emotion based. That's what stories are all about. So this person here, Phil, is saying, it's impressive engagements up 7-fold. We've got a bunch of vertical collateral for the website in a few weeks. Great going. So it's about engagement. Your market probably knows who you are, and if they don't, we've got to solve that problem. But we need to create better stories. So let's see if I can. Great. So when technically correct is the measure. So as you can tell, and I've already mentioned, I'm pretty old, so I follow some YouTubers who've been around for a long, long time. This is Casey Neistat, and he recently released a vlog written totally by AI. ChatGPT is the savior of everything, and there's more. I've been approached more times in the last 2 weeks about startups with ChatGPT or AI-based businesses. That it's quite interesting, actually. But the following vlog was written entirely by AI, and you watch it, and it's okay. It's formulaic. He's gave it quite a few prompts, but what he says here is, it's the worst video I've ever made. And it sucked. And obviously this is a transcript straight out of YouTube that I grabbed this morning. It had no humanity, no depth, no soul. That's where the connection is. That's why people follow, that's why people buy from you. They engage with the humanity, the soul. Yeah, they might justify through tech specs and feeds and speeds, but they're going to engage with you because of the soul. So what do most sales pitches sound like? Well, write me a short sales pitch for a company that provides custom software development. Looking for a reliable partner to build your custom software solution? Look no further than an expert team of developers. This is terrible. Boring, has no soul. So if you are using ChatGPT, and I use it, clearly I've got my little face there, and I'm paying for it to give me prompts, give me ideas. And by the way, if you responded to either of my two emails, one was I asked it to help me write an email, and it was bland. And I said, okay, write me the email as if Chandler from Friends wrote it. And that's where, and I only kept the subject line, but could you be more boring? Thought, oh, that's cute. Grab that. But I used very specific prompts because it was my personality I want to bring across. I wanted to be interesting, and I want to sort of get in people's heads. Pixels, programs, pixels, and profits, oh my. Well, the prompt that I used there was write an alliterative, so technology-based words in the format of lions, tigers, and bears, oh my. And I played with that and came up. So you can use it for those types of things, but if you're going to write your sales pitch, it's going to be awful. So please think about what humanity you can bring into, what soul you can bring into your pitch. So why do stories work? Why is storytelling important? Well, since time began, story is the way that we teach. Story is the way we teach morality. We teach how to hunt in this circumstance, and people want to tell those stories through paintings, through communication. So we've only been writing things down for a couple of thousand years, depending on if you watch Joe Rogan, you might be thinking it's more than 40,000 years, but if you follow more science, then you might be thinking it's a bit shorter. But overall, we've only been communicating in the written format for a fraction of how long humanity's been around. And so why is storytelling important? It's that. It's why people have been communicating. We're hardwired to listen to stories. A Princeton study came out saying they did brain scans while people were talking about technical specifications, and they're all talking about stories. And the story conversation lit up the brain like a Christmas tree, and more people. It created a greater connection between the storyteller and the story listener. The same parts of the brain lit up because they were visualizing the same thing. So, and that creates connection, and connection is when people buy. So think about that. So, picture of a few reasonably well-off, fit men here. Formula One. What does Formula One have to do with storytelling? Well, I'll tell you that Netflix Drive to Survive was absolutely massive. I think they're on the 4th or 5th season now. But so what? This is just a Netflix show. Does it actually matter? The Drive to Survive in 2018 seemed doomed. See my screen, especially the show had no access to Mercedes and Ferrari, and the main protagonist champion. They had no access to the front of the grid. So therefore they technically couldn't talk to the best teams, the best drivers. They had nothing there. What they did is they built story, and they didn't care about the main story. Was the B plot, which is the racing. The main story became about Charles Leclerc, and so that became the story. And what happened? Well, the first race of 2022 was the most viewed ever. And the chief of McLaren says, I think it's got to be the single most important impact for Formula One in North America. So almost every comment you get is from someone from the US about the Drive to Survive. My son and I watch Drive to Survive. Now I've got a KO subscription. Now I'm up at 3 a.m. watching Formula One. He's watching practices and qualifying. He's 14 and has maybe less going on in his life, but so they're involved in these stories. And of course now Formula One recognize the absolute power of the simple fact that there's a story going on. They build stories around this. Now, obviously, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari have thrown their doors open. They need it. They want it. because it's good for the sport. So what's come up, there's a golf one now, pretty much exactly the same format. Follow 17th or 18th seed, ranked players, their lives, their wives, their stories. Guess what? What's happening to golf right now? Oh, more people are watching golf. Oh, I know who that person is. It's not just Rory McIlroy, or actually, I don't even know. I don't watch that story yet. My son is, but it's becoming more popular. Anyway, I think I might have made my point. So where do you start? Obviously, one of the most successful things in the last decade or 2 decades are TED Talks. What are they? Stories. Stories about success, stories about failure, stories about how people overcoming adversity. And funnily enough, to watch a TED Talk is free online. If you want to go to a TED Talk, it's about experience. Now you've got a story. I was there when this person said that. It's your story now. People pay hundreds of dollars per seat where they can watch it online. So where do I start? Right. So let's get into it. These are the stories you need. I'd love you to have. The stories you need to look at is why you started the business. I want to make money is not the story that engages and inspires nobody. So why did you start the business? Tell people that. So I've sold multi-million-dollar enterprise data warehouses to some of the biggest companies in the world. The start of the presentation is where the directors were, the frustrations they had. I wasn't a director of the company. I was representing them. Where they were, frustrations they had, the challenges they had to overcome, the hero's journey. Think about Luke Skywalker. That's a perfect example of the hero's journey. Some disruption happens, and I won't go through the hero story, but you get the idea. You go through and how they overcame it, how they overcome obstacles, what challenges, and where they ended up. That's an engaging couple of minutes of conversation. Or flicking to first slide is here's a Power BI dashboard or whatever it is. That's terrible. It's boring. It's not interesting. So why you started the business? Then I want you to talk about successful client stories. It's not necessarily about you and how clever you are at putting hands on keyboards. It's about the success your clients drive. Thank you for people who are asking questions. Please continue to do so. I'll get back to you as we go, and I'll make sure I weave in your questions as I'm talking. It's pretty free-form, these conversations. I've got some slides that hold me accountable to time and topic, but I do like to keep it pretty fresh. So if you've got questions, keep pumping them in there, and I'll weave those answers through through my story. And of course, the future. The last part is future and vision. People want to be part of something special. People want to know the business that they're investing in, and purchasing something is an investment. Purchasing a product from you most of the time will be an investment, is not only in the future, in the current state, but the future state of where you want to be. Create partnerships with your customers. And if you can do that, then you can both sit on the same side of the table, look at the problem and approach it really successfully. So your future and the vision of where your business wants to be, because people want to be part of something special, part of something interesting. I keep looking over here because there's my question box, by the way, everybody. So after the sale, so your summit, your Everest summit is the sale, but your customer's summit is the use and the value they get from your product. So don't stop selling when you've made the sale. So talk about what happens after, how to get most value out of your business, out of your product. A Q&A session. One of my clients in the past, I've actually run a lunch and learn session where we have a small topic. We then say, okay, there's thousands of people using this product. Dial in, ask a question. We have a topic, we have an agenda, and half an hour. And what that did is it drove a significant amount of new users inside that business to make better use of the product they had. It dug it in deeper. It created a better relationship between my client and their customer. How people overcame challenges. Tell the story of how customers have overcome challenges using your product. And of course, the client spotlight. Talk about your clients. If you can promote your clients, then you're going to be have that reflected glory, and it's going to feel like a third-party testimonial. Okay, so Might want to take a screenshot of this one. I am, by the way, sending out, Brian, I'm sorry, but other people are going to get the recording as well. So if you want to, you can take a screenshot of this because it's actually a worksheet. If you want to watch the video, we're about we're about 25 minutes in. So how did you get here? Let's build out a little structure. Get together a few people in your business. A story told by one person is interesting, but a story told by the whole business is powerful. Everybody understands the story of your business and how you got there, and how everybody's input, multiple perspectives, gives you a much deeper impact. So, industry problems you solve. This is how did you get here? This is the structure for how you got here. Industry problems you saw. All data, no direction. You know, I can't help myself. A little bit of alliteration. How they were solving the problem. Probably half the people you're selling to are solving it with spreadsheets, right? Or, you know, they're writing on the back of their hand or whatever. Where they fell short, you know, interoperability, technology, whatever it might be, you know, that rubs off. Every single spreadsheet that exists is another database. For the data people here, you'll know what I'm talking about. And of course, you get a bit of a code in that database, and it changes. It sits by itself, and it's not. Well, it's actually pretty ordinary. So the process you went through. What did you test? What did you measure? What did you trial? Which way did you think? Tell that story. Write that out. And then the roadblocks along the way, really important. Do that as well. Oh, this was hard because of this, and we needed to create an ETL out of this system, and that came in a different, whatever it might be. And then of your solution, iTech Whizbang, you can have that name if you want. So that's your solution, and your solution solves it this way. All right. So please grab that, but also you can rewatch the video. So take your reader on a journey. If you're saying it, great. If you're writing it, obviously. So each piece of content you develop is a story. Tell the story. Take a moment to think about how people have gone from A to B, how they've taken their existing and created a better future using an aligned product, a product like yours. It doesn't necessarily have to be yours, or it could be, you know, with better technology, they are able to achieve A, B, and C. Just by telling that story, that glory is reflected upon you, if that's a solution you provide, or if you're early stage. So ask your clients, boy, oh boy, the amount of value that exists in your current database is immeasurable. The first thing I like to do with almost every customer is ask them to speak to existing clients. I am helping out a charity, do some sales, and the first thing I actually asked the lady to do, who was doing the phone calls, who was going to be the salesperson for this business, was call existing customers. Figure out what they're getting out of it. What value do they see? Because very rarely is the thing that you think you sell and the value the customer receives, they're very rarely aligned. Remember, you need to speak in the language of your customer, not of your internal technical propeller heads. Now, I'm not a propeller. I couldn't write a line of code to save my life. This is a term of love and endearment. A lot of my very good friends are technical people, and I've worked with technical people my whole life. I have to. They're the ones that actually make the things that I sell. So please have a conversation with the user and the technical person. It's important. Talk to them. Find out how they use your solution. How does it fit into their business? What were they doing before? Tell that story. Here's the action step for you. List 3 to 5 clients and book a call. Now, like literally, do it after this. Write that down. Make that a job for the rest of today. Make a list of 3 or 5 clients. Book a call. Generate a short list of questions. Ask. ASK, ask, and you should be answered. Seek, and you should find. Knock, and the door will be opened. So that's what ASK stands for my thinking. Might have also been written in a pretty popular book at some stage as well. So anybody with classical education might get that joke. I will carry on. So please do ask your customers. So Draw from your own life. What do you do? Do you go camping? Do you go fishing? Do you go boating? Oh, sounds like an ad. Do you go on adventures? Do you go overseas? How can you draw from your own life and weave that into your business? How can you, let's say you do technology for HR businesses. How do you see an example of ordinary HR in the real world and discuss how the challenges of that and what happens? Do you see a business that has a turnover of greater than 30% or 40% in a year? What are they doing? What are they? How are they bullying their staff? I don't know. I mean, are they? Is it a falling knife? Are they going down? What's happening in that business? If you've got a story to tell, then tell it and weave it into some business lessons. So, a friend of mine and I drove a 3-wheeled cake tin with a motor or a rickshaw over the Himalayan mountains, which is stupid. But we did that. I loved it. We had a great time. We didn't organize any food, water, accommodation throughout the way. We're, sometimes stuck. So, by the way, behind that image there is an ice flow. There was actually ice going along. There's no doors on this stupid vehicle. We're absolutely freezing. 2.5 meter walls or so part of above this, 2 meter walls, 3 meter walls of ice to either side. Both sides of the road blocked by trucks. The truck had fallen over. 3 hours. I had to squeeze my hands. I just thought, am I ever going to get off this hill, this mountain? Other cars are sitting around it. The cars are sitting around us. They're all in their air conditioned. They're all warm and happy, eating snacks. Me and my friend are sitting there just freezing. But nobody else was having more life experience on that mountain than me and Aaron. So write a blog about it. Doesn't have to demonstrate too many of your own life experiences, but just take those little bits and pieces are the spark that might create an interesting story. And you know what? It was interesting enough that there was 2 parts to it. Tell your client stories. Write blogs. Tell your client stories. This is an older one, obviously, but these were customers. Healthcare job app free. This guy created a job app during COVID. This other person created a foreign exchange pain. Or solved it. We wrote those stories on behalf of our clients. We put them up on our blog. We sent them to the clients. They loved it. We loved it. We got publicity. So did they. Everybody's happy. The investment in telling your client's story about how they do an amazing job is always of value. There's never a downside of telling your client's story. So, and the client feels better, they feel smarter, and they're going to refer you, more than likely. So, every sales conversation is an opportunity for a story. So, what are the examples of stories? I've already said why you do what you do, not what you do. What you do are hands-on keyboards and technical things. Why you do it is important. Third-party stories, customer success, back it up with a case study, write a case study. Oh, by the way, there's a couple of bonuses at the end of the session for those that are going to hang around. You can see everybody's still here anyway, but please do go ahead and hang around to the end. I've got a couple of bonuses. One of them is about how to write a case study. There's a full book checklist. I can send it to you. So do let me know in the comments if you want that. So the last thing is an incredible, I absolutely love this. I mention this almost every webinar. People buy from me when? Or people work with us when? And it's not when they need dashboards or when they need food service software or HR software. Find the symptom, find the problem, find the issue that exists in customers' business by asking questions. So you've taken time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today. Can I ask, how can I help? How are you currently solving that now? What have you tried in the past? Why didn't that work? These are all questions you need to ask your customer, because if you don't ask your customer and you go, well, you need dashboards, they might say, well, we've already got one. And your strength, your ability to sell immediately plummets, because somebody else's dashboard and your dashboard might be completely different. But if you say, oh, well, the solution is dashboards, then, or more data, or whatever it might be, then you're going to be pushing it uphill with a pointy stick. You're going to be really in trouble. But if you said people buy from us when they're frustrated with their current systems and they know there's a better way of actually delivering this data to management so they can make better decisions faster, that's a type of customer that work with us. Typically, they're in freight or in food service. Typically, they're in food service where freshness is important, product cycling is important, and having just-in-time delivery is important. So I've talked nothing about the software. I've mentioned no real dashboards. I've not mentioned any integrations or ETLs. All I've done is talk about the problems that exist and when people buy from us. So I will need you to develop, you do it if you like, watching webinars. This could just be entertainment. But if you actually want to do something with this information, write down people buy from us when. Spend time. Go and talk to somebody else in your business. Walk up to their desk or virtually or otherwise in Slack if you're at home like I am. And actually, I've asked the question. So why do people buy from us? They're going to give you, oh, they need this or they do that. But when people buy from me, what's occurred? Now, I had this conversation with a client. We were workshopping. They flew me down to Sydney to do a workshop with their business, with the management structure, with the management team. And they were saying all the normal things when this happens and when that happens and we need to do. And so what's the underlying thing here? What's the outward facing or what's the overt thing that occurs that have them buy from you? And they were sitting around and said, well, and the CEO, actually, I think it was the CEO, I think it was the sales manager or the general manager said, well, one of the indicators is that they're growing. And that blinding flash of the obvious came up because obviously people, need to change things when they're growing. It was a blinding flash of the obvious for the entire business, but they went, all right, so let's stop targeting everybody that looks like this. Let's target businesses that are growing greater than 10% per year. And by doing that growth, we can then help them continue to grow. Because if the business has been stagnant, maybe they're doing $20 million or $50 million a year, but if they've had no growth, then the likelihood and motivation to change anything is probably pretty low. There's probably a bunch of people in that business who are doing a bunch of button pushing on a day-to-day basis, and they're really not motivated to break anything. Because remember, when you are selling things mostly to people, they're ejecting an old system or an old way, even if that system is handwritten stuff. That's a system. Somebody had to do that. Somebody's been doing that for some time. You need to break that with a better future. So people buy from me when is super important. And I use it in literally every single sale. Everyone. All right. Talked enough about that. So use stories to define your perfect customer or feature. All right. So in software development, we call them user stories, don't we? We go, well, how will the user use this? Well, then why will the customer use this should actually also be a question. Have a conversation. Tell the story of your perfect customer. Grab a whiteboard. Grab some people together. I like doing these things collaboratively because I often will get, if it's just me, it's a TED talk. It's one way. But if you actually can grab a couple of your other executives or friends or relatives or the postman, doesn't matter, get other perspectives. This is our perfect customer. And if you say, name, rank, and serial number, that's a start, but it's not their problems. It's not how they're measured. And if you want to figure out how your perfect target customer is measured, here's the little tip. Go on to Seek, put their job title in, and you'll find other businesses advertising for job titles like that. So if you're selling to project managers or you're selling to executives in food businesses, or if you're in HR, you're selling to businesses that have more than 500 staff, whatever it is, and you need to find somebody in that business to talk to, find that job title, put it into Seek, and other people will do 99% of the profiling work for you. They will tell you how that person is measured, what their compensation is typically, the level of education that they have, and the level of commitment and way that they need to think. That's the hottest tip I probably can give you from this webinar, is get inside the head of your target customer. And the best way to do that is jump on Seek or whatever the other job boards are, read and put together 2 or 3 job descriptions of your perfect target customer. Now you know how they're measured. And if you know how they're measured, you know what problems they got, probably. All right. So key takeaways. People often don't buy the best products. They buy the products they understand. I know, because I have enough technical people in my life, I know that my iPhone is not the best phone. I know it. It's not the best camera, but I like it because it's got a better story. And I'm now in this beautiful walled garden. Everything works. So, I'm sticking with it. So they don't, and Google wasn't the first. Facebook wasn't the first. They don't buy they don't, and maybe they're the best now, but they probably didn't start out that way. People don't buy the best. They buy the products they understand. So tell stories. Focus on the journey, not the tech specs. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I wanted to cover today. Love to answer any questions for you. Thank you very much for taking the time. We're about 3 minutes early, so I thank you for putting up with the speed in which I speak. I love this topic. I love sales. I love technology, and so I wanted to get in there. So, here's to your success. Now, couple of things. Thanks, Paul. I will. Oh, it's a Paul. It's a digital download. So I'll find. I think you're in my database. I'll email you the book. So my pleasure. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. If there's anybody who's got any other questions, more than happy to cover those. So here's a copy of the. Whoops, wrong button. Here's a copy of the Right to Influence. So it's called Right to Influence, Chapter 1, Case Studies. Chapter 1, it's probably a bit more than a chapter. There's a whole book in itself, and it goes through everything. It even has checklists, questions to ask your customer, a whole bunch of stuff. So just pop me an email or send it through. That'd be great. Now, I know that most people don't ask questions. So, did I do this? I'm not sure if I did it. 1 second. Let me just make sure I did. No, I didn't. That's funny. I actually wrote a ChatGPT prompt to say, what questions will people have about this webinar? It came up with a bunch of really generic stuff. That's why I didn't do it. So bonus 2 is let's tell your story. Let's create a focus finder workshop. It's called an ignition session, 45 minutes. I'll do a quick sales and marketing review of what you've got there, extended personalized one-on-one Q&A, examples of successful campaigns and some templates. I love templates because, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm less. I use templates to keep me on track, but I'm always telling a story here and there. I'm always going off track. So if you ever watched a Billy Connolly comedy show, he tells one story that has all these offshoots, and that's pretty much my how I think about sales marketing as well. Tell one story, have lots of offshoots, but make sure you come back. So I've got lots and lots of templates. So recommended next steps, and the cost on that is free. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time. Everybody's stuck around, so thank you for that. If you've got any questions, I've got some time now to talk. Definitely, what meeting platform am I using? Zoho. So I use Zoho for email, CRM, meetings, everything. I've gone deep into one platform, which is Zoho. No worries at all, Diane. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't stand here silently waiting for questions. If you have any other comments, thoughts, questions, I'd love to get your feedback on the webinar. I do these. Obviously, my offer at the end is to speak with me and work with me, see if we can find a way to work together if that's possible. But really, these sessions are all about me trying to. There's just a lot of businesses out there who are really solving some genuinely valuable problems that really need to be solved. And they're so bad at telling their story, they're so bad at selling, that they actually wallow around in mediocrity and get really bitter and twisted that their competitors, who are probably selling it for a higher price, which is a much worse product, over the top of them constantly. And you go, well, they've got the budget to spend on advertising, or they've got the time and energy to spend on going to expos and whatever else like that is. Maybe, but they had to get from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2. They had to get from where they are to where they need to be. And very not as many businesses as you think use capital, use investor funds. A lot of it is entrepreneurs like you and me who have started a business with a good idea and a lot of delusion about how easy it's going to be, and they drive it forward. So that was certainly me when I was 22 when I started my first tech business. That was a lot of I can do it and delusion. So, but we got there in the end. We turned that into $10 million a year turnover in about 4 years. But it was what it worked. So if you want to hear that story, I'm more than happy to tell it to you if you want to book a session with me. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for taking the time. If you've got any questions, love to talk to you. All the best. Bye for now.